It is the third electoral reform referendum in BC in a generation. I suppose you can give them credit. Perhaps persistence is key. The latest polls have suggested it's a coin toss. This is the closest BC has ever been to fundamentally changing their democracy. Look, I've never been a fan of proportional representation. I think it's convoluted. I think it's confusing to voters, and it neglects the huge role geography plays in the lives of Canadians. Coalition governments consisting of parties all with their own agenda and promises, a bridge here, public art there, research grants for everyone, they all end up at the budget table. Proportional representation is a disaster for anyone who cares about limited government. A study by the Fraser Institute showed that countries governed by PR systems engaged in more deficit spending than their traditionally elected counterparts. The study showed that compared the nation's GDP, proportionally elected governments spend almost 25% more than their counterparts. Now, you're looking at me, you're saying, Cian, what does BC have to lose? Well, you're right. They're almost $68 billion in debt. I think we can throw that up on the screen there, actually. And with their state-run insurance company hemorrhaging cash, their financial future is grim. So let's talk about the positives of proportional representation. The current political establishment in BC, well, they're entirely behind the carbon tax. Every single party that's in the legislature supports it. Every province west of Ottawa, including Ontario, has just fallen out of line with Justin Trudeau. Everyone that is, besides BC. It wasn't even a quote-unquote left-wing government that implemented it. It was the farthest right option, the BC Liberals, a solidly centrist party. Right-wing British Columbians have strategically voted for BC Liberals in the past years. They knew that the Conservatives were unelectable, and their last legislature representation disappeared during a floor crossing in 2012. If proportional representation passes in BC, the Conservatives, which have polled as high as 16% in the non-metropolitan areas of the province, depending on the variation of proportional representation BCers choose, the BC Conservatives stand a significant chance of sending members to the Victoria legislature in the next election. The only party standing against Justin Trudeau's carbon tax currently doesn't have a leader. They'll elect one in late February. No candidates have put their name forward. Presumably, they're waiting for the results of the referendum, which wraps up tomorrow, which will determine the electability of the party at the end of the day. Right now, we've all heard the rumors. The likely candidate, Aaron Gunn, spokesperson for BC Proud, gave a keynote address to the BCCP convention. He delivered an address that was staunchly pro-pipeline, anti-carbon tax. Here's some footage of that.
First, they axed Northern Gateway without even a coherent explanation. Then they sat back and watched as the NDP government in this province bullied Kinder Morgan into submission, forcing taxpayers to bail out a pipeline that had only become essential because the government had just killed its only other alternative. Now, at least many of these levies are, at least in theory, supposed to go towards the maintaining of roads, building of transit, even though they often don't. The BC carbon tax, on the other hand, has the sole purpose to punish you for driving.
Aaron Gunn, he also ran the campaign to keep a statue of Sir John A. Macdonald standing in Victoria after the mayor ordered the statue of Canada's founding father removed. I spoke with the attendees from the last Conservative convention in BC, and they characterized Gunn's address as, quote, a warm-up speech, exploring how BC's conservatives would react. In other words, he hasn't said yes and he hasn't said no. I sent Gunn an email asking him to clarify if he was running or not, and this is what he said. Quote, I am continuing to weigh my options and look forward to the results of the referendum. Regardless, British Columbians are tired of the same old policies and have made BC an unaffordable place to call home. It's time for bold new ideas that respect taxpayers, build this province, and get the cost of living under control. All this is to say, if proportional representation passes in BC, the left might be in for a rude awakening, getting a little more than they bargained for. This is Cian Bexty for The Rebel. Thanks for watching. If you want to follow our coverage of the Conservative leadership race in BC, be sure to click subscribe and that notification bell right next to it. And also follow me on Twitter, Facebook. Thanks for watching.